I started dating this guy. He was in college and he was straight edge, so like he didn't smoke weed or drink or smoke cigarettes or anything like that. He'd be gone for 2 weeks and then he'd come back for the weekend and then he'd leave again. So when he was gone, I went hard. I stole my parents' alcohol. I would steal money for weed. My friends hit me up. They were like my neighbors when I first moved to Anthem. They came over and they're like, "Do you have $20? It's called hash and it's like a little ball of pure THC. So they pull out the tin foil and a straw and we all smoke it. I went home and I threw up and I fell asleep. And I remember waking up and being like, I'm gonna do that again. So I continued to do heroin. I was doing ecstasy. The guy broke up with me because I smoked weed right in front of him one day. And he was just like, he's like, "You smoke weed?" I was like, "Isn't it obvious?" I called the boy that I had always been using with and I told him like, "Hey, we need to pick up, we need to get high." I was trying to stick it to my dad and it was raining that night and I went to the park and I waited for hours and hours and hours and I had nothing on me, like I had no blanket or pillow or anything and all I had was like my little meth pipe and I remember sitting in that slide just so cold and being like, "At least I have you." And then it falling down the slide into the wet sand, like not scrapeable. I fell into mud and like there's nothing you can do. And I remember at that moment just being like, okay, what if I went down there? I could break the meth pipe, like, and just like all these different ideas. Like, is it really that bad to smoke sand? That was when I knew I need help. My dad's a crisis center situation kind of a guy. He started packing up bags. I was wearing no shoes. I wasn't wearing a bra. I was wearing this crop top and like marijuana leaf leggings. And I start running. 6 cops pick me up and they're like, "Settle down, little girl." And we start driving. I'm in my dad's car. And I remember being like, if I'm going to get sober, then we're all going to die. And I grabbed the steering wheel and steered him on into traffic. By the grace of God, nothing happened to my dad that day. But we got pulled over by Highway Patrol and they chained me to a pole. And I remember screaming, like, "I'm a good girl. I go to church. Like, I don't do drugs." And the cops just being like, wow. My dad rode in the car with me and I was handcuffed and I started kicking him and then they put my handcuffs on my feet. Took me to Community Bridges. I got in instantly, which is not really everyone's story with Community Bridges. I left and I started getting high again with some random guys that I met. And my dad was driving by one day. He was like doing a job over there or something and he was like, "Get in the car." And I don't know why, I just did. Like I was so hungry and so I got in the car and he took me to this treatment center. It was a 4-month long. I ended up staying for 10 months. I don't know the shift that happened. I remember like trying to prove people wrong and proving to people that like I was going to be the one exception to this program and to things like that. I did the work and I did everything that was asked of me. I became very willing. I surrendered a lot when I looked around one night and I realized that I had a bed. I had 2 pillows. I had walls and a door and windows, and I had friends. It wasn't okay to push people around, and I needed that. Like, there was that humility that I needed. I started going to more meetings. I started, like, reaching out to fellowship to people who were actually doing the same thing as me, and I didn't know how much I needed that. And I'm 21, and I have 2.5 years sober, and I just can't believe it. My dad and I have an amazing relationship today. My people are in these rooms. Like, that's where I jive. And for me, when I was struggling, nobody could really tell me anything. Like, it wasn't really an option. But I also didn't believe that there were other people who were my age who were doing it. I didn't really see a light at the end of the tunnel. And there is one. And for some people, it comes very quick. And for some people, it comes later. But there definitely is one. And it's a lot of fun.